8, which are the covenant consent approval for 20 Templar Street, Sutton House, and property transfer 20 Templar Street, Bill Sutton House.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Sorry, now that I've done that, I haven't opened it up. Right, so we haven't got Phil here. Who's the deputy chair of this committee?
Glenn.
Yanni, would you like to introduce this item?
Well, it's timely that it comes after the previous one, that this has been an outstanding request since September 4th, 2012 from the Community Recreation and Culture Committee. And that was really in response to the deputation. And I do want to acknowledge those who came in 2012. Neil Roberts, who was then the current owner, who's sitting in our audience today. Mr. Mark Gerard, Chairman of Historic Places. Mr. Grant Banbury, Chairman of Friends of the Christchurch Art Gallery, Te Puna o Waifetu. And Ms. Pat Unger, who was the biographer of the artist W.A. Sutton. And it was really their initiative to come to the council and to the committee in 2012 that led to the committee recommending and agreeing to contact the SERA, the Earthquake Recovery Authority, to discuss the possibility of the house remaining on site with a preference for an artists in residence program. So, as the former chair of that committee, there have been regular occurrences whereby council has repeatedly tried to engage with the previous central government over getting action on this, and 6 years on, we're now in a position to see the reality of that initial recommendation. I have to say that I do want to acknowledge the current minister, who I think has also put a huge amount of effort into this, but also the previous minister, Nikki Wagner, actually I know was very sympathetic, and actually she was also working with us to achieve this. But really, the huge debt of gratitude must go to those members that I've identified, as well as the new members of this trust. I think it's an absolutely fantastic proposal. I think the challenge for us as a city now is to make it as easy as possible and to reduce the bureaucratic barriers that have existed since the earthquake to enabling this project to succeed. So the resolutions in front of us today begin that process. There are some additional recommendations whereby we actually would like the government to consider, and I'm just waiting for those to come up on the screen, but really we're getting one section or two properties transferred over in terms of, sorry, it's just one, but there's other properties around it that are having to go through the transitional use process. And it just seems to me absolutely silly that we would basically have one property that gets transferred while the others don't, and then have to go through another process. I think if we look at reducing and making this as easy as possible for the trust, then surely the key thing is to give certainty around those neighbouring properties as soon as possible so that they can go and do what they need to do in regards to fundraising, development, and have certainty that those properties will be able to be used longer than the transitional use that LINs currently get. So as I've said, there's many lessons to be learnt from the earthquake, particularly around how such good, sensible ideas just seem to have taken so long. But it's really a testament to those people that have carried the can for so many years to see this happen. And I think it's our job today to enable it. So I'm really happy to move the recommendations from the committee and look forward to the next phase of this project. Thank you.
Turn my microphone on. I'm broken the rules myself. Sorry. Yeah, Yanni and Tim Scandrett. But I did want to follow on about this because we've added in this resolution, request the government to transfer ownership of the additional properties to the council with the intention of ownership being transferred to the trust. I have to say that when I read the documentation for this, and for the first time saw the application form, transitional use of Crown-owned RRZ land, I just about, I use this phrase, losing the will to live, a lot lately, and I have to say that, you know, it's not a form that looks like it's designed to encourage and enthuse uses of this incredible land resource. It just looks like a bureaucratic, it looks like a bureaucratic, I don't know, I can't even think of the right word to describe it, but it looks like a barrier. It doesn't look like a sort of an easy entry point, a welcome mat that says, you know, we really want the community to engage with us about how we bring this place alive in a transitional way. So I fully support the additional resolution which says let's go and ask central government if we can have the land now, and we will pass that on to the trust. Then they can do their job, and what an incredible resource this is going to be to our city. And the other reason that I wanted to speak early on was to pay tribute to Yanni Johansson, because as a councillor he has remained committed to this cause well before I became the mayor. I think it was one of the first things that he approached me about after I became the mayor. We've had sort of dibs in on the Bill Sutton house for a long time before I became the mayor, and we've restated it to every minister who has worked with us along the way on the issue. It was Nicky Wagner who made that, that major step with the agreement to the transfer. It was the new minister, Dr. Megan Woods, who's enabled the transfer to actually happen today. I'd like to thank staff as well. You've worked so well with the community to make this happen. You're going to feel really proud when you see that place open, and I'm sure we're all going to go to that and know that it's going to be a great asset to the city. So, thank you.
I've just seen the wording of the new resolution. I have no problem with that, but I think there's a question around whether the ownership remains in council and is utilised by the trust or transferred to the trust. I mean, I'm really open to that, but that's not what we're doing with 20 Templar Street. So, I would just suggest a bit of caution around that. I think the possibility should be left open, but I don't think we should assume that it's just automatically changing the ownership to the trust. It could be perhaps utilisation of those properties by the trust, but we haven't really had that conversation. This was something that came up at the committee. Rather than council just receive the property, should we just give it to the trust and they own it? But we haven't worked that through yet.
Yeah, I haven't seen that additional resolution there, but I think if it's more in keeping with item number 4 there, i.e. a use which supports the trust, because that's essentially what we're doing at the moment. We're asking councillors to pre-allocate these properties on the basis they come to council in the future.
Yeah, but we're going to ask that they come
now.
Would it be better to change the wording with the intention of fulfilling the next resolution? Resolution 4.
Yes. You could easily just stop 3 after request government to transfer ownership of the additional properties to the council, because number 3.4 actually makes reference to them being utilised by the trust.
Request the government to transfer ownership of the additional properties to the council as soon as possible.
Yeah, that'd be great.
As soon as possible? Yeah. And that's all right with you guys?
That'll be fine.
Yep. Okay, cool. Pauline?
Just a quick question on the operational costs.
Yep.
So once they're vested with council, we pick up the operation maintenance costs, which will be increasing over time.
Oh, the operational costs will be met by the trust,
right,
through the lease.
Okay.
Your council's only obligation is basically renewals, i.e. wear and tear over the lifetime of the asset.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. I'll put the motion then. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. Thank you.